Hi, it's Jeremy Shatton from An Earful. Welcome back to Discover Music with An Earful. This is monthly listening for July 2024. If you happen to be new to the podcast, this is a monthly podcast where I talk about music I've been listening to that month, usually things that have come out that month, sometimes a little earlier if I'm delayed in getting to something or delayed in getting approval to put it on the podcast. And I also talk about live performances and maybe other musical happenings from the month. If you like what you hear, I hope that you'll rate, review, and share the podcast. That's really the best way you can support what we're doing. Thank you so much if you can do any of those things. And when we come back, 2 live concerts from July. I only got to see 2 live concerts in July. Partly that was because it was so hot. I could not imagine going to an outdoor concert. I had Font and Lifeguard on the docket. They were playing at Union Pool as part of their Summer Thunder series. Mary Timony was there too. It was just too hot to see myself doing that. But at the end of the month, I got very lucky with 2 concerts. The first one was Fruit Bats. They were playing Racket, a newish venue run by Bowery Presents in the old Highline Ballroom. Hadn't been there before. It was really nice. And Fruit Bats, I might not have seen them this time around if these tickets didn't fall in my lap because they don't have a new album out. But I'm so glad I got to see them again. They're actually in rare form. Eric D. Johnson, the singer, songwriter, guitarist who leads the band, he's just so good. He really brings you into his world. And the dynamics of the show just raised the roof. He's kind of a rock star at times. Other times he's very approachable. He came into the audience, sang directly to the fans. It really was a delight. They are so good. And I definitely recommend Racket. It's on the west side, which is a nice change on 16th Street, and just a good place with good sound. Next, on the 30th, my daughter and I won tickets to see The Clientele. This would be my 3rd time seeing them, her first. They were playing at Le Poisson Rouge, where I had not been since February 2020, one of the last live shows I saw indoors before the pandemic. Now, The Clientele to me are just one of the best bands of our time. Their record last year, I Am Not There Anymore, was my #1 record of the year. I did not get to see them last year, however. I did an extensive tour. They played the Bowery Ballroom, but I could not get there. And this time, I was so happy that I had the chance to see them. They are still so good. Alistair MacLean is the lead singer, songwriter, and guitarist, joined by James Hornsey on bass, Mark Keane on drums and a little keyboards. They're just like the perfect ensemble. You can't imagine why you would ever need more than 3 people in a band after seeing The Clientele. It's mind-blowing. MacLean's left hand should be insured by Lloyd's of London. It's hard to tell exactly what he's doing. It's sort of a finger-picking, arpeggiating thing that just creates this instant mood. There's something sort of hazy and not quite precise about it that just makes it so emotional. He also can take a solo that will drive you insane how good it is. Just lifting the crowd off their feet. Really fantastic. The new song sounded good. They also played some classics, Reflections After Jane, Since Kay Got Over Me. I mean, these are just some of the best songs. They are so good. If you ever get the chance to see them live, take that chance. You will become a fan if you aren't one. They're also true gentlemen. I picked up a copy of the album at the merch table. They signed it. We chatted a little bit. Just great people. I hope they come back soon. Apparently they are working on new music, so we may get more from The Clientele in the future. When we come back, recent recording. Our first recording this month comes from Zachary Mezzo, who emailed me a while back about his EP Proximity. Mezzo is a violin player and electronics whiz who really creates some fantastic stuff just with his violin, a loop pedal, some treatments. It can be confrontational, it can be provocative, it can be spooky. You'll hear a little bit of both of those in the track we're going to hear on Closer Inspection from Zachary Mezzo's EP Proximity. Here it comes. Wasn't that cool? You can also go on YouTube and see Mezzo do this stuff live, which seems like a really involving experience. Hope to have that chance myself sometime. Mezzo is also in the punk band Catcher. I like artists who have a rich musical life like that. Catcher is much more than a punk band, though. They are also provocative and very interesting. They put out an EP in February called 30 Million Windows. I highly recommend you check it out. Our next recording comes from Sarah Hennies, one of the leading composers of our time. Somewhat like Michelle Liu, who I've discussed before on this podcast, Hennies works on a scale that sometimes seems larger than the contents of the music. The frame may be bigger than the contents, but it makes for music that you can immerse yourself in and experience, as in entering a room. The album we're going to discuss is called Bodies of Water. It has 2 tracks on it. The first, Lake, is 15 minutes long, which is short for Sarah Hennies. And the second one is Abscission, which is 35 minutes long. Abscission was a new word to me, so I looked it up, and it's a rather beautiful word. It means the natural detachment of parts of a plant, typically dead leaves and ripe fruit. So when you walk by an apple tree and there's apples around the base of it, that was the process of abscission. The music follows process as well. It is written for a trio: Carlos Santiago on violin, Aaron Bush cello, and Jonathan Pfeffer on guitar. Give a listen to an excerpt. As I said, it's a long piece, so you're just going to hear a little of it, but I think you will be intrigued. That was just 90 seconds of Abscission by Sarah Hennies from her album Bodies of Water. I hope you'll be intrigued enough to listen to the rest of it. She also put out an album in May called Motor Tapes, which features the Thalia Ensemble's stunning performance of Clock Dies, which they premiered at the Timespans Festival a few years ago. I remember I missed it, and I'm so glad that we now have it on an album. Motor Tapes and Bodies of Water, as I said, are out now. And speaking of Thalia Ensemble, they also rule on the next album we're going to discuss, which is a portrait album by Felipe Lara, composer of also rather expansive works. And he really is a great orchestrator, almost in the classic sense. I think that he and Shostakovich and Mahler might have some interesting conversations. But of course, he's using those tools for something very different, because he is fully a 21st century composer. So give a listen to Fringes from Portals, Felipe Lara's debut portrait album. Once again, that was Fringes by Felipe Lara from his album Portals, composed for a large spatialized ensemble. Not exactly sure what that means, but it sounds terrific. And by large ensemble, this is nearly an orchestra. It's over 30 pieces. Talia Ensemble at their most expansive, conducted by James Baker. Stylish, beautiful performance, actually recorded back in 2018. So this has been in the can for a while, but it still sounds fresh. We're going to take a little break after that, and when we come back, some different tones and textures. And I am back. Next, we're going to hear something from Richard Knox, the man behind Giza Records, which I've been familiar with for a while for great releases by Christine Ott and Foudre, mostly in electronic realms. But Knox himself is also an artist. He has a lot of different names: A Sun Amisa, Shield Patterns, Of Thread and Mist. But he also is in the midst of releasing a 3-album series of ambient music under his own name. The series is called Unyielding, and the record that really got my attention was Unyielding 2 and the track No Light. I shared it on A Song for Friday when it came out, and I noted that it's a sublime, nearly static sheet of sound that somehow seems to be arrowing through time itself like the prow of an ice cutter in the Arctic. Give a listen and see if you hear what I hear. Wasn't that something? Unyielding 2, No Light by Richard Knox. There's another track on the album as well called Emptiness, which does what it says on the tin. Volume 1 and 2 of the Unyielding trilogy are out now. Volume 3 is still to come. Now, Knox works and lives in Glossop, which is in the Dark Peak district in the northwest of the UK. Is there a better name for what he does than the Dark Peak district? Our next artist comes from Amsterdam, which seems more prosaic after that, but has released a really excellent album called Every Somewhere. The artist's name is Luke Elliott. This is out on the AKP label, who have had a very strong track record recently, especially with Omar Ahmad's incredible Inheritance, one of my top 25 albums from 2023. Let's hear Objects of Virtue by Luke Elliott. One thing I think he does that's cool is not only are the textures beautifully assembled, but there's definitely a narrative or song structure for each of these little electronic pieces. Here it comes, Objects of Virtue, Luke Elliott from Every Somewhere. beautiful stuff from Luke Elliott, Objects of Virtue, off his album Every Somewhere. The whole thing is great. Get to it. Next, we have another great discovery from the Rosie Overdrive blog. RJF, Strange Going. RJF is Ross J. Farrar, who is apparently a frontman in several bands, including the blistering Crisis Man, who just took the top of my head off. Hadn't heard of them before, but now I'm very intrigued. But RJF, on his own, is much more reflective than that. Last year, he released an album called Going Strain. This year, we get Strange Going. Intriguingly, on Spotify, this is released as a single track. It's 10 songs on Bandcamp, but on Spotify, it's a single 45-minute track. And it really works in that format, I have to say. It just draws you in and takes you through in a way that feels slightly different than if you knew there were 10 songs going by. But they are great songs. This is all him, guitar, bass, and drums, especially bass. His bass playing is so good, and just the sound he gets is really wonderful. I love it. The songs are moody. If Crisis Man is a punk band, solo work by RJF is definitely in the post-punk realm. It's dub-inspired, spacious, mysterious. I want you to listen to Caterpillar, the fourth track on the Bandcamp version, and somewhere around 15 minutes into the Spotify version. RJF, Strange Going, Caterpillar, here on Discover Music.
Exile is where you wanna be, left alone with the animals. No more status symbols or diddly cars. There's only this. There's just one big cemetery that we've come to feel. We shed blood. We shed blood, and now you're sick like me, like me. You're sick like me. Sick like me.
Intriguing sounds of Caterpillar by RJF from his album Strange Going. That came out in April, and I was hoping to share it back then, but he missed my email, then I missed his email. Finally got it all sorted out after a comedy of email errors, and I got the track, the permission, and you're hearing it now. The same thing kind of happened with Anastasia Coop, who I've talked about a lot, and last year shared her single Tough Sun, but her album Darning Woman, her debut album, is on my top 25 of 2024 so far. It is truly spectacular, and I really wanted you to hear it. So you're going to hear it now. This is almost the entire song, What Doesn't Work, What Does. It's just a song that makes you feel like you're maybe slightly misaligned with the rest of the world, and you want to align yourself with what she's doing. What Doesn't Work, What Does by Anastasia Coop.
Doesn't work, what does? What 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 doesn't work, what does? They just have grown tired of you. What does? What doesn't
What Doesn't Work, What Does by Anastasia Coop from her debut album, Darning Woman. Note that there is no question mark on that song. What doesn't work, what does? A flat statement, just like her album is a statement of artistic intent. I almost get the idea that she observes the world of music and finds much of it wanting, creating her own complete universe. She is also a talented visual artist. I recommend you follow her on Instagram. Keep up with what she does in painting, drawing, mixed media. But listen to the whole album, Darning Woman. It's just one of the great debuts of the year. And there have been a lot of great debuts this year. What was the last debut album you listened to? Please let me know. Burlington, Vermont is not a place I associate with swagger, unless you consider what we do on the ski slopes to have some swagger, and occasionally it does. But this band, Robber Robber, have swagger in spades, and they are from Burlington. In fact, the name of the song we're going to hear encapsulates that. How We Ball. How We Ball by Robber Robber, a post-punk juggernaut from the Green Mountain State. Coming now. How We Ball by Robber Robber from their debut full-length, Wild Guess. They've been releasing music for a while, putting out an EP in 2019 and 2021, but they were a duo back then. Now they're a quartet. And I think one thing that's so great about them is the specificity of their sound, not only in the guitar interplay, for example, but in how those guitars are recorded, and also how the voice is recorded, consisting now of Nina Cates on vocals, Zach James, drums, guitar, bass, guitar, Will Krulak on guitar, Carney Hemmler on bass guitar. Nina also plays guitar and bass, so it's a very collaborative band. Nina and Zach are the original members. Now they're a quartet, as I said, and they're really using that to their advantage. Highly recommend you check out Wild Guess by Robber Robber. And next we get another album you could refer to as post-punk. This is an Austin-based band called Font, F-O-N-T, like letters, typefaces, font. Strange Burden is the album. You're going to hear an excerpt from Cattle Prod. Check it out.
Blood in the mirror, champagne in the dark. What have we done? What have we done? Blood in the mirror, wet pain in the dark.
Abroad by Font from their album Strange Burden. We throw around the term post-punk a lot, and I recently had to do some thinking about that to come up with my top 10 post-punk album. Post-punk obviously is a time and place kind of thing because it's the music that came after punk specifically. But the style, the sound of it, is also quite specific, and I think one thing that distinguishes post-punk, say, from punk is that post-punk does not take for granted what instruments can do or where you might place them in your song or arrangement or how you might produce them. It thinks about things from a new angle, often incorporating elements of krautrock, dub, reggae, and other genres that, like I said, don't take for granted what instruments can do, how they can be produced. I think Font is a great example of that, a very specific, beautiful sound. Robber Robber, too. Next, we have a band called Sour Widows, who've been around for a while, but this just released their debut album. They call themselves alternative rock. I kind of hear elements of Americana and math rock. There's a precision to what they're doing, but there's also a folk basis to it as well. I think this album is really terrific. It is called Revival of a Friend. One thing they're very impressive at, as somebody pointed out, mesmerizing guitars. They really know what they're doing when they interlock and just weave around each other, two guitarists. So good. So what you're going to hear is a song called Staring into Heaven / Shining. It's the last track, the longest track. It's over 8 minutes long, and you're going to hear it in the excerpt I created transition, I believe, from the Staring into Heaven part into the Shining part. They must be a great live band because this sounds so good. Check out Sour Widows, Staring into Heaven, Shining.
If I lay this still, we could be falling asleep, and I'm just your baby, and you're holding me, but the birds start to sing and fuck up the silence, and I'm losing it all. With the morning shining, with the morning shining, with the morning shine.
Sour Widows from their album Revival of a Friend. Really, really strong debut. We're going to close out the show with one of my favorite artists of the 21st century, Father John Misty, aka Josh Tillman, or Jay Tillman, as he called himself on his earlier solo releases. Now, I got into him through Fleet Foxes. He was their drummer in concert, and on the second album, Helplessness Blues. So I started tracking down the Jay Tillman stuff, and I really liked it, although it can be a little bit dour. It's almost like he's holding something back on those records. Very ascetic. If you want to get an idea of Jay Tillman at his best, try to track down his Day Trotter session. You remember the Day Trotter sessions? Maybe they're still out there on the web somewhere. I have them all safely stored on my phone. But Jay Tillman was quite a thing live on the Day Trotter. But Father John Misty's first 3 albums are all on my top albums of the year. Fear Fun, I Love You Honey Bear, Pure Comedy. A better 3-album run has not been heard in the 21st century. The next album, God's Favorite Customer, has actually grown on me over the years. I didn't think it was bad, it just didn't quite have the focus or something of the first 3 albums. Then in 2022, he released Chloe and the Next 20th Century, which I had a few problems with, but there were about 4 or 5 songs on it that I thought were just amazing. When he is good, he is just the best. It could be that I'll come around to the whole thing later on. I wouldn't rule it out. He's just a next level artist. I don't think he does anything without intent. Now, the time has come for him to put out a greatest hits record, or as he calls it, greatish hits. I followed my dreams and my dreams said to crawl. Now, if that's not a Father John Misty title, I don't know what is. He also notes on the Bandcamp page, warning, this compilation features mostly old music. Longtime listeners risk swindle. But I'll tell you, I'm tempted to get it because there is one new song on, and it is amazing. Maybe one of his top 5 songs. It's called I Guess Time Just Makes Fools of Us All. And I was listening to it in the car the other day, and I said, this is one of the few songs that can make both Steely Dan and Bob Dylan insanely jealous. Here's an excerpt of the 8-minute and 35-second epic disco masterpiece, I Guess Time Just Makes Fools of Us All, from Father John Misty. Coming at you on Discover Music.
Go on trial just for laughing at the joke, just for saying of the bargain what any sales girl already knows. Most of us old men die at the firing line, just waiting for our number to be called. I guess time just makes fools of us all. Now the king regales his stepson when he's loaded as a gun. Says a real man is like a country.
Tell me you don't want to
You
go
need a
right
map
now and hear the whole song.
to
I
find
Guess
your
Time
one.
Just Makes Fools of Us All by Father John Misty, an unreleased track on his new Greatest Hits. I Followed My Dreams and My Dreams Said to Crawl. The album also includes Real Love Baby, which has never appeared on an album before. It was originally released as a single. It's a great compilation, very well sequenced, not just chronological, beautiful artwork, beautiful vinyl in the Father John Misty tradition. His packaging is often the best. But that's all we have for July. There's a few other things I have in the works that came out in July that I hope to feature in the next episode, but that is it for Discover Music with an Earful for July 2024. I hope you found something new to love. Tell me about it if you did, and please remember to rate, review, and share this podcast. That is the only way we can continue spreading the word on the finest music of our time. I should mention that all the music you've heard was ethically sourced from the artists and labels. Many thanks to them. You'll find links to all those in the show notes. A few other goodies will be there. The interstitial tracks are by me, circa 1984 and 1986, with Andy Gilchrist on occasional guitar. Thanks as always to the Droplets, Holly Miranda, Am Parsley, and Chris Maxwell for my theme song. You can find me at anearful.substack.com and all the socials. See you next month.
Musical tour, running in every direction. It'll be a very long time until you know what I wanna show you. Come on, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. 'Cause I wanna show you. It'll be a very long time till you know what I know. I wanna show you. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.